Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Emerald the Quilter. It's so nice to be back from my little break. As you may be aware, I took some time to focus on my show quilt, which I entered into the Joy of Quilts show here in Stafford, Texas. And I won first place in the category that I entered, and it was so rewarding and it was such a wonderful experience. I entered into the first of show category, and I will post a link down below so that you can check out the video of that convention if you did not see it already. Now let's take a look at these quilts behind me. This quilt I made in this playlist was the very first one. It's called the Sugar Cookie Quilt. And then this one is where I stopped at our last video. And this is called the Ice Box Cookie Quilt. Now stay tuned to the end so that you can see the quilting on the back of this one. Today we're going to start the next quilt. Now this one is called Animal Crackers Quilt, and this is by the Perfect 5 Quilts book of It's So Emma. So if you haven't purchased your quilt book yet, you can go down in the links below to purchase your book. And the charm pack that I'm going to use is Apricot and Ash. So beautiful. I've been saving it, and luckily I also had some background fabric from another one of Corey Yoder's books. I think it was a Coriander Christmas block of the month that I had 3 yards left over, and so now I've got 1.5 yards. So my background fabric and my charm pack are ready to go. We're going to lay these out because we're only going to need 35 of these charms from this charm pack. So here is Apricot and Ash. And we have 42 charms in here, and I only need 35. So I'm going to set aside all these lights. And I just want to make sure that I like the ones that I pick, and I know that I'm going to have to include some of these, maybe just a few. And I'm going to make 5 groups of 7. So we got to keep all the greens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1. Okay, let me put them where you can see them. Here's peach, light peach, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and really I should just spread these out so that you can see all the pretty patterns. That's more fun. And let me open these up. Corey Yoder has really pretty fabrics. Really pretty fabrics. I particularly love her shades of green. There was another collection that she had, I think, a few years ago called Spring Brook, and that one had some blue in it, and that was really pretty as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I already lost count, so now I need 7 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, okay, and then I need 2 more equal groups. 1, here's a light, here's some more lights. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1, 2, 3. Let's see. Do I want to do like the gray, or do I want to do maybe the floral? I think these pieces, because depending on how I cut them, and we look at this pattern, the pieces, there you go, the pieces are quite thin, so that might not work. But let me see, maybe some of these motifs that are clustered together just a little bit closer, like this one. If I fold it in, what would that look like? It's a little bit better. And if I put it on top of a background versus this one, this is just more visible. So I think I'm gonna have to go with these stripes as my first choice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then let me see, I had another motif that was smaller, but they're also closer together. So this one, or this one. I think this one, because it's more even, and when I cut it, there's no guarantee that with this larger motif that they'll be more evenly spaced, like there'll be less background. See, like if I cut it here, there's a lot of background right there. So I think this one is a more worry-free piece of fabric, so I'm going to use that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Where'd it go? Here it is. Okay. All right. I have all 35 charms selected, and now it's time for me to cut them all out, and I'm going to just quickly grab my little rotating cutting mat and reset up the camera. Okay, I've got my rotating mat, my table is set up, I have my pattern next to me, and my background fabrics are already cut. They took quite a while because there was lots of itty bitty pieces. And oh, and stay tuned to the end for some happy mail. So let's get started. These are in stacks of 4 or 3. I don't like to go too much higher when I'm cutting small pieces like this. And if you have alphabetties, you're going to need A and B for this part. So I'm going to need 2 long rectangular pieces and then 2 shorter ones. And I'm just being really careful because I don't want to make any mistakes. You have to use your charms like you have to cut it sort of both ways because there's a little bit of leftovers on this side, but then after you cut over here to my right, and just being very careful. And I'm going to have to go back and check those because I'm not sure that I did them right. Let me see. Okay. I did do them right. See, here we go. This is what was throwing me off. I was supposed to cut this longer piece off, but I cut this off first, and you can see the difference. So I have 2 B's and then 2 A's. Are they the right size? Yes. And I'm going to double check that these are the right size. Yes. Okay. All right. We are on a roll. And so for the rest of this, I'm just going to play a little bit of music and keep on cutting. All right, all of my pieces are cut. I'm going to clean off this mess that I have here and lay them out onto my design board so that you can get a better picture of them. All right, we're here at the sewing machine and I'm going to begin by sewing my E and A pieces together. Those are the little squares and the shorter rectangles. And I'm going to chain sew about 10 and then today see how many I can actually complete all at once and take it from there. Let's see, how many do I have here so far? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to do 2 more. This would be 9. And 10. Now I'm going to, from the opposite end, take the same 10 small rectangles of the pattern fabrics, which are through here. Keep those, set these back aside, and then grab some more not rectangles, of these itty bitty squares. And I just want to see how many I can get done tonight. And if I have more time, I will do some more, but we're just going to take it step by step. Just fixing that because it was just a little bit crooked on this edge and this edge, so just took a little bit more time to straighten that out. I'm just going to put these back because I didn't necessarily count them. And I'm going to bring my design board over so you can see how it's going. There you go. So you can see that I have taken from the top on both ends, and now I'm going to start working on my B's and C's. So I'll take the top 10 B's, sew them to my C's, and then at this point I'll have to cut off all the pieces that I chain sewed to then sew the other squares to the A's and then the other B's to the C's. I'm going to get those same ones right here up to this peach. Sometimes I do this when I want to feel like I've gotten more done in one night. It's a nice feeling to have some blocks all the way completed, and then some other nights I'm happy just to have all the separate units sewn together. But tonight I'm just kind of feeling like I want more blocks, so that's what I'm going to do. I really love these lime greens because they're not so strong. They're kind of a little bit pastel, and the motifs, they're very delicate. The coral peach color really works well with this green. And you know, this color green was hard for me to find online. I think it was called lime green by Moda or something like that, but the more popular green that's on the lighter side is called pistachio, and that I was able to find everywhere. And the ginghams are such a perfect size too, because these ginghams, they're so small that they work really well with itty bitty units. It doesn't get lost. Now this pattern I think actually came out as a basic with these little dots and like plus signs. I'm not entirely 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure this exact pattern, or one very similar, came out as a basic recently. And so if you're ever in the need of Corey Yoder fabric for an older collection, you can get a basic to match. That might be from a newer line. Okay, so I'm at the end of my 10 pieces. I'm going to cut them and then cut in between each chain. And I'm going to keep them in order too. Just keeps the process of chain piecing all these units a little easier. Whoops, now I snipped this corner there. It's so tiny that you can barely see it. It's going to get hidden in the seam. That'll be fine. It's a good thing I wasn't using my super sharp scissors, so I would cut off more. Okay, that's one pile, and then I have the other rectangles for the last pile. Okay, now what I'm going to do is press these towards the dark side. And it's not as important right now, so if you'd like, you can do this later. But it does help to keep your pieces flat. And I just press down on the seams with my fingers and my nails. It does a good enough job and saves me a trip to the iron. Now I do like to iron any block and every block once I'm actually done sewing the entire block. Here's one pile, and I'm going to put that right back where it was. Grab the next pile. Continue the same thing, pressing towards the dark, being careful not to pull on the fabric so it doesn't distort. There's the next pile, and it's going back as well. And then here's that last one. And it helps to press down on something hard since these pieces are longer. So I'm using the sewing machine. That way you can see. Otherwise, I'd just be placing it on the table. And since it's getting kind of fluffy now from having so many layers, I'm going to put these where they were on my design board in the center and continue. All right. I'm going to get a leader to begin and continue sewing these itty bitty squares again to the units I've already sewn. And since they're in order, and if I cut them in order again, they will be ready for pinning after this seam. That was one, and now I'm just getting a few more little squares to continue. 2 little squares left and 2 units left. I didn't even count that. Okay, all that's left for me are the last 10 of these that require the other print on this side. Here we go. So with this large print fabric, I'm going to distribute the motif across on the other side so that it's not, you know, all green and flowers on one side, and it'll just look better if I flip it over. Helps keep the fabrics balanced. This one isn't quite lining up to the edge, so I'm just going to give it a little tug. And it'll sew out. Just 3 more pieces. Last one. Awesome. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these chain pieces snip them, and I'm going to reset the camera so that it's on the left side of my machine so you can see how I'm pinning these units together. Here is my design board. This is where I was placing my pieces, and you can see each pattern is the same and they're all still in that same order that I had cut them. And I started cutting these chain pieces. I'm just going to continue about a third of the way done. And I went ahead and I got my more sharp scissors. I just had to move the camera because it's just a little bit faster to do it on the table. This one's really close. Okay, very good. So now all of my units are cut. They're in order, and these are the pins that I use. I think I've shown them before. These are my favorite. They are glass head pins. I'll put them in a link below, and they are very thin, very sharp. They're glass head, so that means that if you take your pinned blocks to the iron and you press, this won't melt. Now I'm going to press to the dark side. Just like this. Bring it towards me so that I have some space. And I'm going to do that with all the pieces. And don't worry if they like flop around. Once you get the pin in there, they will stay open. And there's enough space on this unit to pin both of these units on either side, and I'll show you that in a moment. It helps when you don't like pinning and you just want to pin things once and be done. So those are ready. Next I have these. And for whatever reason, I did not press these to the dark side, so I'm just repressing those. And they're all like that. Okay. See, that's just one reason why you don't always take your units to the iron, after every seam, because then you can make these corrections. Okay, those are done. I've got these left, and then I'm ready to pin. And that's not the end of this block. Don't forget, we have sashing to add. And because the sashing is part of the block, it's not something that we can wait and do later, like in a typical quilt with sashing. The sashing on this block makes the block square. That way we can rotate them in the layout. All right, all these pieces are ready for pinning. And let me show you what I mean when I say that it's large enough to pin both units. So we just take this piece, make sure that the seams interlock like that. You shouldn't be able to push it further. They bump into one another. Pin, do the same thing on this side. There you go. And turn it around. Grab the other equal looking piece and pin it. And you know what I'm thinking? These pieces are so thin. They're so skinny. They're rectangles. You could make a scrappy quilt with this and any fabric would work. Okay, there you go. That's what I mean when I say you can go ahead and pin both sides. And I'm going to do that to the other 9 units here. Two. That's 8 more to go. This particular print, for some reason, makes me think of Hawaii. I don't know why. Maybe it's because the little flowers almost look like, I think it's called plumeria. Those beautiful scented flowers that grow on trees. That might not be the correct name, but they smelled really good. They were brighter in color, different shade of pink, but something about this definitely reminds me of Hawaii. And it's just that print. This quilt would look really pretty in a bedroom that I have where the walls are painted this sort of peachy coral color, really light. That touch of green will look good. Let's see how it looks on the bed when it's all done. Okay, with this large print again, I want to look at these pieces and see which side they would look best on. So this side or this side. I think like here, if I turn it around, turn this one around, that one looks nice there. And then this one, that looks nice, I think, there. So that's the direction I'm going to go with. And here are the last two. And I think for the time I'm spending on this tonight, this puts me just a little bit less than a third of the way done with all the blocks, because remember we picked 35 charms. Cut those up, so that means we're going to have 35 blocks, and since I'm doing 10, that leaves me 25. It's almost a third. It's not bad at all. Last piece to pin. Ooh, this light piece is hard to see. Okay, just making sure. Looks good. Here's my nice stack. And I'm going to now sew these, remove the pins, clip them, sew the other side, remove the pins, and then I have the sashing right here ready to go. I'm going to bring this to my right and keep it in the neck of my sewing machine so that I can just more easily set them aside. Oh, I need another leader. Here we go. I have a leader in. And I'm just going to start. I'm going to have to take a look at this one because it kind of seems a little off. I'll get to it. But I think I'm going to pick up the speed now that I'm sewing across more length of fabric. Let me just increase the speed a bit. When I'm sewing small pieces together, it helps me keep my corners and edges aligned more easily, sewing at a slower pace, but I have a lot of room to travel now. Now this one is just all kinds of off. Do you see that? I'm going to repin it and see what's going on. Nope. That looks okay. We're just going to have to sew it into the seam. And so that was definitely a cutting error. But the good news is that I cut it too large going one way. If I had cut it too short, then I would have more to fidget, or excuse me, I would have less to fidget with. And I would have more space to hide, more negative space. Time to cut this. Actually, I'm going to cut them at the end and just take it as it is. Grab another leader and keep on going. That one started to wiggle under the foot. Gotta add pressure. Okay. It's never good when that happens. When the foot and the teeth start pushing the fabric towards one direction or one of the fabrics and not the other, you gotta lift your foot up and adjust. No one likes to deal with fabric that has been slightly twisted. Whoops, those are underneath the new pile. Okay, brought them around. accidentally dragged these pieces when I brought the pile around. Excellent. So now I can cut all of these off. And I'm going to readjust the camera a little bit again here. Okay, now we're more centered. And it's not really important to keep the pieces in order anymore because now we're just adding sashing. Our printed fabrics are all sewn together. All right. Now I'm going to have to look at the pattern to see which way I need to press these seams. Or do I open them? I think I'm actually going to open them. I'm going to open them because I am free motion quilting or using a walking foot on my domestic machine. And it's always, always, always much easier on your domestic machines when these types of seams are open. I know this from experience very well. And since I'm opening them, I think I will take these to the iron just to keep them. Well, let's see how they do. And think about it. They might be fine. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. As long as the outer seam sews in the proper direction, it'll be all right. And here's how you pop a seam. You take one side and then the other, and you pull them apart. The smaller your stitch is, the more pulling you do. If they won't open at all, you'll have to snip these here in the middle. But if you have a wide stitch, it'll come apart like butter. That one, it kind of got tucked under. Should be okay. And you know what? Since that happened, this little piece of fabric getting tucked under, I think I am going to take all of these and just press them with the iron so that it's less likely to happen again with my pieces, my sashing pieces labeled D. So I stopped and pressed my units, and you can see that they're much more tidy in the back now. The seams pop pretty nicely and they just lay flat, making them less thick. And so when I quilt over it, the needle will go through much more easily. Here are my D pieces. And even though this little square is sticking out a little bit, I'm going to lay this unit flat to see where it really should go. I want to make sure that all my corners stay at 90 degrees. And when I hold it in place and turn it around, you can see that there is not much fabric that is, not matching up. And it'll hide pretty well inside the seam. And I can also just tug on this slightly so that both edges touch. And I need another leader. And I don't want to trim any fabrics away because I did take some good amount of care in making sure that my cuts were as accurate as I could get them. Now if it was super way off or closer to like a 1/4 inch of a difference, then I would definitely either recut or, if I could, trim, but these are just fine. Now I am not even pinning along the length of this unit because nothing's really moving around and it's not all too long. Just holding the end with my fingers and then adding some pressure on the top is just enough to get the fabric through the foot. Once I'm done with this side, I will sew the sashing onto the other side. So these are done, and I'm just going to do the same thing. And I'll trim the thread in between each block at the end. I need a leader. And my leaders, they're just cutaways that I have, and I keep them. Sometimes I throw them away, but they're handy. 2 more pieces, and then we're gonna snip these up. Okay, let me get my good little snips. They're gonna look so pretty all together. I should have picked like some light gray and some dark gray to include in these 10 that I did, but I just grabbed the first 10 that were on the top. I will get to them, so it's okay. All right. And here is the block. I'm going to take these to the iron, press them flat, and reset the camera so we can see all of them together. I pressed all my blocks, and here is what the block looks like in the book. Here's the quilt again, and let's take a close look at these. They came out so nice, so pretty, very simple. I think this one's my favorite, at least of the ones that I did today. And a few of these are doubled. I'll have to make sure to spread them out in the quilt since they are exact replicas. And here's the last one. Yay! So glad that I got these done. They are going to go onto my design wall right now. And now it's time for some Happy Meal. So this is my order from Fat Quarter Shop. This is the binding and backing for my Animal Crackers Quilt. They always have the cutest stickers in their packaging. Here is the backing that I picked out. This is not from the collection, however it is from Corey Yoder, and I got it because it was on sale. And you can see that it matches up pretty well. And it's the alphabet. I like that. Let's see if there you go. That coral and peach is an exact match right there. And then here is my binding. Very nice, very pretty, well coordinated. Love it. So let's get these up on the design wall, and then we'll move on to the last part of our video today, which is the free motion quilting of my previous quilt. So here is a look at the blocks I finished today up on the design wall. I didn't place them in any order. They're looking great. I love them. And now it's time to look at our previous quilt that's all quilted and ready for binding. Here is a close-up. And I'm going to show you the back. Now it's not all perfect. I did it by hand. Well, on the domestic machine, so I do not have a stitch regulator. But I think it came out really nice, and the flowers added the perfect little touch. And here's the binding that I picked. And it's going to go great with the brown that is in the sunflowers. Can you see them right there? The edges. So I'm excited to get this done next so I can start using it and just in time for spring and summer. And that was all I had for you today. So thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope you're enjoying my videos, and I hope you are starting your Animal Crackers quilt. And I will post the video of the quilt show and the beginning of this playlist if you would like to sew along these quilts with me down in the comments below. And I will see you next time. Bye!